Hi everyone, and welcome back to Dara and Friends Bible Adventures. I'm Dara. Last time, we learned all about Noah and his incredible ark. Do you remember how God kept Noah, his family, and all the animals safe from the big flood?
And then, after the storm, God put a super duper colorful rainbow in the sky. It was a promise that he would never flood the whole earth again.
And how a dove brought back an olive branch, showing the waters were going down.
Exactly. God is always faithful to his promises. And after Noah and his family left the ark, they started a whole new beginning. They had children, and those children had children, and pretty soon, there were lots and lots of people on earth again.
So, everyone was happy and starting fresh?
Mostly. But something really interesting happened as more and more people came along.
As Noah's family grew, they all lived in one big area. And guess what? They all spoke the exact same language. Imagine that, no trouble understanding anyone. But one day as they traveled eastward, they found a beautiful plain in a place called Shinar. And they had a very big idea. These people looked around at the wide open world. Instead of spreading out and filling the earth as God had intended, they decided to stay together. Come, they said to each other, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They didn't want to scatter across the earth. They wanted to build something super special to keep them all united in one place. And what was their big plan for these bricks? They said, let's build a city for ourselves and a tower that reaches all the way to the heavens. Wow! A tower that reached the sky. They had a special reason. They said, let's make a name for ourselves so that we won't be scattered over the face of the whole earth.
They wanted to be famous, and they wanted to stay together in one big group, instead of trusting God's plan for them to spread out and fill the earth. They were focusing on their plans, not God's plan.
Now God was watching all this from up above. He saw the people building their city in their very, very tall tower. And God said,
Look, they are one people and have one language. This is only the beginning of what they will do. Now nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them.
God saw that because they all spoke the same language and worked together, they could do anything. But they were using their amazing teamwork for their own glory, not for God's glory.
So God decided to do something amazing. He said, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other. And just like that, people couldn't understand each other anymore. Someone would say, pass me that brick. And someone else would hear, give me a hug quick. They couldn't work together on the tower anymore. Because God confused their language, they stopped building the city and the tower. And guess what happened? They started to scatter all over the earth just like God had intended in the first place.
So, the Tower of Babel is why we have so many different languages in the world today. Isn't that amazing? Wow! The Tower of Babel teaches us some really important things. What do you two think was the biggest lesson?
That if God asks us to do something, we should really listen. Like how he wanted people to spread out.
And that it's good to work together, but we should always do things for God's glory, not just to make ourselves famous.
Exactly. God has a perfect plan for each of us. Sometimes we try to do things our own way, but God's way is always the best way. He knew it was good for people to spread out and fill the earth, and even when they tried to build the Tower of Babel, God made sure his plan happened in the end. That's right. God's wisdom is always incredible. Thank you for joining us on this amazing Bible adventure. We learned that God's plan is always best and that he wants us to use our talents to honor him, not just ourselves. Don't forget to like, comment, and share for more adventures. Until next time, keep exploring God's amazing word. Bye!